In this video, we're going to focus on the vertebrates known as mammals. To review, mammals are classified as amniotes, and more specifically, mammals evolved from synapsids, which also evolved into therapsids, and then eventually evolved into mammals. If we look at our classification, so we are in class Mammalia. So mammals are in class Mammalia. And then the other classes we've talked about with the other vertebrates that we've talked about in previous videos. On this phylogenetic tree, you can see that mammals are here. And one of the defining characteristics is that they feed their young with milk. Mammals are classified as amniotes. We are tetrapods with 4 limbs. We have lungs. We have a jaw. We have a vertebral column. We are classified as chordates, and we develop as deuterostomes. Some additional characteristics of mammals includes them being endothermic, which used to be kind of referred to as warm-blooded, but endothermic is the more scientific way of saying this. Mammals are also homeothermic, and this kind of goes hand in hand with being endothermic, but homeo just means that mammals have a body temperature that stays the same. So if we look at humans have a kind of an average normal body temperature of 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit, which is 37 degrees Celsius. And the endothermic properties of our bodies, or of mammalian bodies, is that they can do things in order to maintain that homeostatic, or that kind of set temperature. Mammals also have hair or fur, mammary glands, which produce milk to feed their young. Mammals also have different teeth for different diets. And so there are some teeth that are meant for biting, some are meant for chewing, some are meant for grinding. I accidentally repeated that mammals are endothermic and homeothermic, so we talked about that on the previous slide. But let's talk a little bit more about the hair and fur that we mentioned on the previous slide. So hair and fur serves a few functions for mammals. It can be a source of insulation that helps to keep heat in the body. It can be associated with sensation. So some mammals have whiskers, and even in non-whiskery mammals, a lot of the hairs are associated with sensory receptors in the skin. And so if the hair gets moved, then you can detect it. It's kind of like if a mosquito lands on your skin, you can feel it, often because the mosquito is moving the little hairs on your arm or leg around. Mammals also have this tough protein known as keratin. And this protein is used for structure and protection, and it is found in structures such as the skin, hair or fur, and nails or claws. Hair can also be used for communication. So if you think about a cat that is scared and the hair stands up on their back, that's communicating to a threat that, that cat is not happy and might attack. You can also look at humans where before, if we look at our ancestral humans, before we really had the power of speech, the growth of hair is associated with puberty. And so it was a way to communicate that a person had reached sexual maturity. There are 3 different groups of mammals. There are monotremes, marsupials, and then eutherians, which are also called placental mammals. And we'll talk about each of these on the next couple slides. Monotremes are egg-laying mammals, and they are fairly rare. You're probably most familiar with the platypus, but there's another type called the echidna, and the echidna is in this picture here. And this is the platypus. And it's interesting because even though they lay eggs, about 2/3 of the embryonic development actually happens inside before the eggs are laid. So it's different from, say, a chicken egg where there's very little embryonic development that occurs before the egg is laid. The embryo in the egg is nourished by a yolk sac that is placenta-like. And we'll talk more about what a placenta is when we talk about the placental mammals. Monotremes do not have any teeth. You can see that they have this kind of almost like a duck bill to them, or a beak. And they are native to Australia and New Guinea. So they're fairly rare and they're not widespread. Marsupials are also found in Australia and New Guinea, and they include some examples such as kangaroo and wallabies, koala, bandicoots, and Tasmanian devils, which is being shown in this picture right here. The Americas also have marsupials, but it's limited to the opossum. The defining characteristic of marsupials is that their young or their offspring finish developing in a pouch. So think about a kangaroo, they've got the pouch. And so when these animals are pregnant, they have a very short gestational period. And so the young are born very undeveloped. They're very small. And they actually crawl into the pouch, and then they basically finish fetal development in the pouch. They do have a yolk sac-like placenta, but there's no eggshell. So they're kind of almost like this intermediate between monotremes and placental mammals. Most mammals fall into this category of being eutherian or placental mammals. And what this means is that they have a placenta, which is an organ that develops during pregnancy. And it is derived from two of those extra embryonic layers of the amniotes. So remember when we talked about amniotes, we talked about the layers in an egg, and we talked about the chorion and the allantois. We also talked about the yolk sac and the amnion. But these two structures, the allantois and chorionic, actually come together in order to form the placenta. You can see that on this picture here. So the placenta is this kind of area surrounding the baby here. You can see a closer up version here. And then this is what a placenta looks like after it's been delivered. So after a woman gives birth, she also has to deliver the placenta. So it has to come out of the vagina as well. The purpose of the placenta is it acts as kind of an intermediary between the fetus and the mother. So the mother's blood and the fetal blood do not actually mix. It's kind of like the mother's blood delivers nutrients to the placenta, which then passes those nutrients on to the fetus. And then when the fetus produces waste products, it transports those waste products to the placenta, which then get deposited in the mother's circulatory system to be removed from the body. So it's involved in things like gas exchange, so oxygen and carbon dioxide, fluids like water, and also nutrients.